Whew.
Mhm.
We got to
Hey,
start
watch
over.
that.
I just
Hi
burped.
out there. Hi. Greetings and thank you for joining us. We are the
I,
three Black Pratt grads.
I burped.
My name is Kenneth Nelson. I'm here with my good friends, Mark Skinner and Gregory Cleghorn. We are graduates, all three of us are graduates of the Fine Art Photography program at Pratt Institute. And of course, and we bring loads and decades of professional commercial experience to all these conversations that we have. This is our 104th. And this, since it's being our 104th, I've had the good luck of preparing the topic for today. And the topic is knowledge, what value? Right? So we want to talk about how much our photographic knowledge, and by contrast, if you've been photographing, your photographic knowledge costs in today's world. This has nothing to do with how much education you have in photography. It has really nothing to do with any additional knowledge you have in photography. If you're a novice, you can join into with whatever you think the value of your photographic knowledge is. So if you have 1 day of knowledge, then you could come up with a typical amount what that value of that knowledge, photographic knowledge, would be, versus someone who may have 2 days worth of knowledge, versus someone who has 6 month worth of knowledge, versus someone who has 1 year worth of knowledge. And so, with that direction and that focus to concentrate this conversation about, Greg is the first one to go, and Mark will be second, and I'll take up the anchor. So, Greg, what do you want to
Yes.
do?
Knowledge.
Yes.
That was kind of, you do come up with some brain teaser topics. Now, yes, I understand what you're saying now, but what I was thinking of when you put it on the table was probably wrong, and it wouldn't be the first time we went the wrong direction with one of your topic prefaces. But what I was thinking was, yes, okay, as you said, knowledge. I mean, what the price of an education? You could go and maybe not in photography, but you can go and get your doctorate in um, lots of fields of study. And of course, when you go out into the world looking for, gainful employment, that has weight to it. A doctorate. When you walk into a company or something, you've got your doctorate, you're going to get paid because there's a level, not just for yourself where you're like, well, hey, I'm a doctor. No, you people who value your knowledge, have to pay for that, and that's one way of looking at it. And it's real, but I was thinking kind of like in the art world that not just in art speak, I mean that I used to poo poo and to quote Nancy Pelosi, poo poo. Um, I used to kind of knock and kind of laugh at art speak, but there's a whole uh, knowledge base, as you said, to if your work's legit and you're not just blowing smoke, knowing the background of stages of art or influences that lead you to a certain image, uh, and if you can talk your way through that journey, then yes, I would say the knowledge of that is very important and very knowledgeable and should have a monetary value to it for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Um, the other thing I was thinking of was imagery and skill. Now if you are a novice or I don't know, I want to say lazy or anything, and you put a print out there, and it's obvious that you didn't intend to have light leak, and you make a print and it's kind of real bright on the corners or something, or the print has kinks in it, that's going to, I don't care how much art speak you do, unless you're saying that you did it intentionally, your knowledge of the medium is going to show, and people are going to say, okay, all right, thanks, but no thanks. But um, the other side of that is knowing your audience. If you have an image that I knew this guy at back in New York, is at a print lab. His work was okay. It was kind of New Yorkish, New York scenes. It was all like giant postcards. But he would go, he and brought his work into the lab and make these, uh, 20 by 50, kind of beautiful, creamy, deep saturation, colors of the New York City skyline. And he was selling them like like hot dogs at lunchtime in on Wall Street. And I was surprised because it was okay, but he knew his market, and he had enough people in his whatever circle that was that liked the work, and he used his knowledge of imagery to to make his bread and butter. So toss up the first picture I put in. I know this isn't really a big or anything like that, but if it doesn't come up, that's fine. It's just different stuff. You never know. I remember I was involved in a art walk. Um, they're up in Sacramento, downtown Sacramento, and a bunch of photographers and a bunch of painters and different mixed medium people were out there. And in addition to just talking to folks and hearing what they enjoy about imagery and such, um, I was kind of listening to this one conversation. This guy had kind of a again a kind of a, to me, ordinary shot of San Francisco Bay Bridge, the Golden Gate, excuse me, the Golden Gate Bridge. The top of the tower is breaking through the fog. You always see that image. But for some reason, this person wanted that image. One of the people on the walk, and they were haggling over price. I was like, dude, just sell it to her. She wants to pay $500 for it. Let her pay $500 for it.
Mhm.
They're haggling for this thing, and again, it's a thing of uh, well, of course, like just about anything, what will the market bear, and what an image means to someone. So I took some pictures in Hawaii, and I brought them back and I showed them to a good friend of mine, and she picked the picture that I was about to put, like you can put on my maybe I'll never print this one again file. It was a giant sea turtle. It was really big. It was like about 3 feet. I don't know if that's giant, but to me it was big. And it was a dead, and he's decomposing, but he looked so peaceful in the sand. This quiet little secluded little hard to find beach, and she absolutely loved it. She was like, that thing speaks to me. And like one of the pictures I showed you guys of the Ukraine conflict. Um, it's it's there is like a whole emotional attachment that people have to imagery. When you shoot a picture, I feel the best pictures have some type of emotional impact with the viewer and the photographer. Hopefully, the photographer saw it when they shot it. But who was it? Oh my gosh, I forget the guy who said that. I think about John Mellencamp. It was on an interview recently. He said the best art is when the artist is surprised by what he shot or painted or whatever. It's like uh, somebody can point that out and say, "Wow, yeah, I really like that you did that in it," and then the artist may look at it and say, "Wow, I had no idea I captured that." you know. So like this image, it speaks to me because it reflects a whole bunch of um, uh, it reminds me of my childhood. We were in this 19th century church, and I just thought the architecture and the ceiling, the way the wood beams were put together, and you get this whole auditory, all sensory uh, remembrance or memory or knowledge. Would that be knowledge of that particular space? Because it always smelled like frankincense. It always was super quiet, and the floors squeaked and that creaked, and the marbles squeaked. And there was just something about it that, for me, this image says a lot, to me. It may just be a picture of a roof or ceiling or whatever, but um, the knowledge that's in me moved me to capture this image. And knowledge, and I mean, you could put the other one up if you want, but that's fine. And that was kind of my ode to Halloween. You
Okay.
know, I have a thing for what do they call that, pareidolia, where the human mind sees things that may or makes human faces out of
Yes.
arbitrary things, like seeing a cloud and say, hey, it's a bunny, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
um but if I wasn't such a dark person, I wouldn't see something like this. So it's the for me, what you're saying is like the personal knowledge affects what you see, what you do, how you react, what you photograph or paint or sculpt. And I think that knowledge is power. It really is. Thank you, George Orwell. Or is that Orwell? Anyway, um, I don't know. That's what I got. What do you guys think?
Well, here's the story, Greg.
Uh-oh.
The
I
right.
was way off. Was
Yeah,
that my
you were
tangent?
yeah, because and folks out there, when I brought this question up to the group, the question is, right, can you place a dollar amount on the value of your photographic knowledge? What is
Okay.
that amount? Can you substantiate that value in a concrete way that a layperson can comprehend it? All right.
Well, I mean, in that respect, I was thinking, it's again, knowing your market. You could say, well, hey, I went to Pratt. My work is worth more. What you value yourself as, because you could go out, and because I saw a guy, he had really good work, but I felt like he was underselling himself. His pictures were only like $50 a piece. And I'm like, that's kind of you're selling your children. That's a personal piece of artwork that you created. Nobody else has that shot. And I felt he was underselling himself. So I mean, I felt there was kind of a self worth. What you value your work to be, and sure, if you can stand up and say, someone was like, oh well, I'll give you $20 for it. I was like, well, no, I believe my photograph should be $220, and that's where I'm standing. So, can you substantiate that?
And
Um, well, name is too. Because somebody who's been shooting, let's say for New York Times or Magnum or Getty or something, he knows his work is tack sharp, on point, and timely, and emotional, and all the things that make for a really good image. Now,
yeah, but
unlike
Greg,
painting,
Greg,
one more thing, then I'll shut up. I like painting where canvas costs much, paints cost much, and you're like, technique is something that not everybody has. If you can qualify, all of the material costs, because I could say, hey, I'm shooting a Nikon, I'm shooting a Hasselblad, I'm using this quality film, I'm printing it in this, silver process or inkjet process, archival, and all of that. Then yes, it does have a monetary value attached to it. But okay, I'll shut up now. Go ahead.
Yeah. Mark, okay. Greg,
I missed the mark, but
you've gone way in another direction, which I was hoping we would go with this, but your input is great. Um, what I would like to though here is that in the photographic, and again, you've externalized this conversation because you're talking about external factors. I'm talking about within yourself, the internal factors for yourself. Yes, internally. If you were to put a value on the photo knowledge that you have, and no one would give you grief for whatever number you came up with, right? Let's just say you're insular to any number that you come up with. It doesn't matter, right? What number would that be?
now you don't mean the actual cost
Yes.
of a
Yeah,
pratt
No, I'm
education
not
or
talking
the
about
cost
costs.
of
That's
he's talking about actual remuneration.
right.
for your
For the
education,
knowledge that you have.
and you don't mean what I paid for, a bachelor's degree of education for
No,
this
I don't want
from
you
a
to.
master's
I'd prefer
degree.
you not factor in that because that's irrelevant to a degree. This
Well,
is
it's your knowledge. You
it's
paid
sort
for
of
that
Greg,
knowledge.
it's sort of
Well,
like pricing your work. How do
well,
you
I
price your work?
well, yeah, I was
Right?
gonna say, Ken,
You don't price your work based on somebody else's work. You price your work based on what you think your value of your work is. Right? And then the market will either accept it or reject it. But I don't want you to go there. I'm just wanting you to go off the top of your head, the gut. If you were to say, my photographic knowledge in totality is such and such, what would that number be?
all right. I think
See,
really
I'm still not following.
Okay, that's
Is that
okay.
I think,
when you go to an employer or something,
No,
you say,
no,
okay, I'm going to
no,
teach
no,
here. I
no,
should be making this. No,
no,
what are you
no.
saying?
Nothing that. This is fun and games, Mark.
well, I
Greg,
think what he wants to put
Oh,
her pinky in her mouth and say $1 million. Like Dr.
$1 million.
No,
let's
exactly.
right. Greg will. I'm sorry. Let's come back to you in a minute. Mark,
Yeah.
what do you have to say?
See, I understand. I tend not to discuss salary per se, but here's
Right.
the thing: what you're talking about is the value of uh, your value of your work is based on the synthesis of your education and your experience. So you're sort of negating that, but
Right,
you're also
because
asking it at the same
right,
time. But
because
but I mean,
it's irrelevant of education.
well, you see, here's the thing, because what you're doing is you're saying that education doesn't matter, it's just the value of the work. But I think the value of the education is how it informs you as a professional artist or a professional photographer specifically in how you create your work and what the value of that work is. I mean, if you're teaching, right? The value of your information has a set amount. It's probably 50, 60 grand, whatever it is, depending on where you're teaching per year. If you're selling goods on behalf of an organization, like let's say you're a product manager at a camera company, that could be somewhere between 75, maybe as much as 125K, because you're a product manager or something like that of a specific line of goods. If you're providing a service, right? You're providing assurance, right? And when I say providing a service, it goes to the idea that you're providing photographic services for high school grads or wedding photography and much more retail sense. And so that's kind of based on the assignment. Even if you're photographing for a news site, you're factoring in maybe a day rate, either between 60 and 800, maybe $1,000 if you're somebody really important per day, and then there's maybe a special additional fee for a cover. I don't know. But the key is that, and then there's with advertising, you've got maybe $3,000 to $10,000 for your creative fee. But then there are all those other fees that come into play, like the usage, and then the uh, placement. Is it on a billboard, or is it going to run? That little ad going to run on the New York Times website for a year? That the extra money's come into play there. So that's the way I see it in terms of your question, is what's the value? And I think the value is basically once again back to that same word I always tend to use when we have these discussions. What is the intention of the work created? As an individual, I can say, well, I'm worth 80 grand a year, or I can say I'm worth 40 grand a year, or I can say I'm worth 120 grand a year. But it's only meaningful if I articulate exactly for that sum of money.
Okay, so let me reframe the question then, because I already have my number granted. Okay, you're being courted as a possible photo guru for such and such a case. You have
With like
30 you have
Indeed or
30 35
Headhunter.
years of photographic knowledge behind you, right? They're going to pay you a
Right.
one-time salary for the rest of your life. What do you ask for that one-time salary for the rest of your life? One lump sum for the rest of your life. What do you want that sum to be?
Oh my goodness. Ha! I would honestly have to sit down and figure out what my costs were and figure out what I would like to accomplish for the rest. And quite honestly, you have to think about the mortality in a really serious way. Do I have 20 years left? Do I have,
Mortality of what? The person?
well, no, of myself as an individual. Many a lottery player has gotten a lump sum of multiple millions of dollars only to find themselves, working in retail
But but it would
6
be
years
it
later.
would be it would be immaterial because it would be one lump sum. There's no annuity here.
So, no, I'm saying some people get the lump sum and then they spend it all. The annuity people tend to last longer. But my point is like, would I take $12 million? Would I take $40 million as my lump sum?
Yes, that's the question.
In all honesty, my brother asked me a question like this when a child was injured years ago at an amusement park. And my first answer was they should just give the family $68 million and just whatever else they want. If they want to go to the park or any of the other parks again, they don't have to pay for anything anytime they want to visit, provided they just don't, go around screaming that, oh, our child was killed here, that kind of thing. So, I mean, I guess adjusted for inflation, I don't know, 75 million based on how long ago he asked me that question. But that
Okay.
was my immediate, that was my immediate. But
You know,
a child killed is not the same as information. So, but if that's the number off
Yeah.
the top of my head,
Yeah.
sure, 75
Okay.
million. I
Okay.
mean, it's an exorbitant amount. It's an insane amount, but that's the number I'm going
not
to give
maybe
you.
not. Maybe not. Because if you what we're kind of skirting is, um, they're like media lawyers that do nothing but negotiate, um, contracts and such like that. Is a screenplay about, I don't know, pick a topic. Muppets or Star Wars. That they kind of laughed at the Star Wars script when it first came out, but they did it, and now his franchise is over to $4 billion. You know, is the media lawyer a person who can decide the value for, because what do we know, because there are certain intrinsic things that we all bring to the table. Mark has an intrinsic or unspoken talent for certain things photographically, just like Ken has a intrinsic value. That how do you God bless you, how do you put a
Thank you.
price on that? A media lawyer could look at, the whole scope of things and say, okay, this image by itself, is part of, Kenneth Nelson's early phases. This is his middle phase. This is where he nailed it and consistently nails it over and over. So, how do you, like you're saying, your self worth is what it is, but
Yeah.
somebody who has a bigger scope might need to step in and speak for you. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. if that's on a tangent too. Did I miss again?
That might be a too thinky answer, 75 million.
I think I honestly, I believe that the answer is much simpler than both of you, because you keep
Oh.
reaching for these external factors to come up with a qualifying amount, and it just doesn't have to be that difficult. All
So
you do is,
what
it's
is your
like two
amount?
kids, right?
What is your
What's my
amount?
amount?
How did you come
Right.
to the conclusion?
Right. If I were to come to a conclusion, my photographic knowledge right now is worth $15 million.
Okay.
Right.
Now, what did you base that on if it's not based on your
Just
experience?
on the way I feel. That's it. No factors. I feel my photographic knowledge is worth $15 million.
Okay.
Okay. No
All right.
qualifications, no anecdotes about why it should be that way. It's because that's the value I place on what I think my knowledge is worth.
That's confident. I'll give you that.
Right. And again, this has nothing to do with who's willing to pay that. It's just a fun thing to think about and to really consider, right? Without external factors creating these brain freezes as about what your value is worth, when you should come up with what your value is worth, external of other factors. Because if you will always be rethinking what your value is. You have to substantiate your value first, see if the market takes it, and if it doesn't, then you adjust. If you're scared, you adjust. But if you want to play the market a little bit better, you won't adjust, and you let the market come to you if you can. And if it doesn't, you'll deal with the consequences.
Do you think that earlier in your life that $15 million number would have been higher or lower?
I progressively lower, because as knowledge comes up, more knowledge comes over time, the value goes up.
Right, but you said without without factoring in what you're
No,
learning.
we're not, because I'm not factoring in anything specific in terms of knowledge. I'm not saying what
Well,
school, because you don't need school to learn photography.
No, but you're not factoring in school, but you're factoring in your personal experience as an artist, as one who executes images, creates
Yeah.
images and crafts
Yeah.
images. So each year you've tacked on another $1 million, but you
I don't
are
know
using
that.
it.
Maybe not.
using-
Maybe not. No,
Well,
that's not a given.
so so let's say 10 years ago, what would the number have been?
You're asking me 10 years ago? I don't know.
Because I'll tell you
Yeah,
about I don't know how many years ago it was, but certainly 5-6 years ago, my number for that example I gave was $68 million. And then that
Okay.
was right off the top of my head.
Okay.
And then so I just said, oh, okay, with inflation, tack on another 9, but and that's for me, not for them. What happened to them was absolutely horrific.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is the idea that, well, it's $15 million is an interesting one. But what I'd like to know is, how did you come to that conclusion? Or was that just a number, you just like the 1 and the 5 next to each other with the number of zeros? I mean, is it visual? Is there something that appeals to you about that number? Or does that number seem like a good cushion? What is that?
It's a good cushion, right?
Okay.
And it's not too low and it's not too high,
Right.
right? It's not too exorbitant to be ego boosting or ego blazing, and it's not
Right.
too low to cheapen myself.
Gotcha.
All right.
All right. So it's a comfort level.
It is a comfort level, but it also comes with the amount of knowledge that I know that I have that makes me comfortable in saying that.
All right.
Now, someone
what
would have, I could have easily said 1, but that would have been a
Right.
different story, and it would have been a different outcome.
And you would have had to raise your pinky to. But what would you do photographically, provided someone gave you that $15 million? And let's say you got the entire 15 million. Would you do anything specifically photographically?
No,
No.
no. I would continue to do exactly what I'm doing now. The only thing I would do is just move to a different place. That's it.
Okay. Yes, I didn't want to get into, whatever personal things one would do.
Yeah.
That's
That would be it.
interesting. Okay.
Greg, now that you've heard the discussion, do you have any perspectives on it from your point of view?
Wow, as they
I'm
used to say
still
in
kind of
Bandai Boxing, body blow.
what?
That little game, the little computer game they used to have, Bandai Boxing. Body blow, uppercut. Go ahead. All right. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, that confused me even more. Um, I I don't know that for me that sounds not to knock it or anything, but it sounds kind of random. I mean, yeah, you're putting a value on yourself as you know, but ooh, I mean well, again, it's like how do you quantify it? You can't I can't knock, you know, if that's what the way you feel your worth. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Now, and
I
again,
wow,
that again, we talk about photo knowledge, right?
photo knowledge.
That's what it is about. Photo knowledge. What
So are
value?
we photo gods yet? Are we photo gods? That's the question.
Uh,
I don't know uh, and then again, and then I know I'm probably overthinking this, but I mean, market. I mean, would I be at a museum? Would I be asking a museum? Is this a hypothetical? What do am I talking to a genie? What am I doing? Who am I talking to? I could just pick a number. I mean, like 15 million is a good number. Sure, I'll go with that. 50 million, sure. But again, it's like, well, where is this?
right.
Where
So
is the forum for it?
right. So
But
you here's what you do. You take that number and you germinate on it, right? You think about it and you say over time, because if you continue to think about it, you begin to think seriously and rational about it, whether it's a reality or whether it's a fantasy, right?
okay, if you haven't
And you can
germinated
either
on
you
anything,
can rationalize it as a fantasy and just throw it away, or you can think about it and say that's a possibility, and you could probably work towards something, if not the fruition of the totality of that number, something along that lines, which moves you in a way toward it instead of stagnating and standing still.
So what you're talking about is manifesting millions through positive thoughts.
I'm just saying manifesting positive thoughts through millions. Yes.
see, okay, but
Okay.
even in that, I mean, in the art world, um, not well, kind of what taking a piece of what Mark said. It's your mortality. It's like Basquiat. His work was here. It was always good. He got noticed, and then his stock started rising, and then he died. So then his work was, through the roof. Or that New York subway, Keith Haring. If I don't know, and we all used to see those drawings on in the subways. Some people were smart enough to razor them out and frame them. You know, and he went from just a oddity on the subway that nobody paid any attention to breaking into the art world, to books and media and shows, and then his stock rose and rose, and then he died. It's like, wow. But you're like, what you what the value you put on yourself, and the value of your work through a process or progress or progression or whatever is, that's real world stuff. I don't want to, bust any bubbles, but it's like, yeah, I could say I'm worth this. I could say my work is worth this, but um, I don't know if we talking outside the art game, because the art game is real.
Right.
You know.
See, and here's the thing about it. Your perspective always comes back to the physical, the tangible. I'm
We talk
talking
about the
about the brain.
ephemeral,
I'm
ethereal,
just talking about
ethereal.
what's in your brain. Has nothing to do with whatever print you made, has nothing to do with anything else but what's in your brain. What is your value? Right? If you right, you have such and such years of knowledge in photography. What is that value? It has nothing, no relation, and take
No
the
relation to
relationship to
reality.
physical things out of it. Just
Well, why
your
didn't you
knowledge.
say this was a fantasy island show? I could come up with a
Well,
fantasy
I think
island.
what you're talking about is taking all of that data and sort of downloading it into a computer if you could. And where the educational component is just sort of uh, distilled to the actual information rather
Yes,
than the experience of
yes.
sitting in a class and going through critique. It's what's the value of what you obtained from that experience.
Not only that, every experience you've had photographically up to now, every book you've read, every art show you've gone to, right? All that
See,
knowledge, right?
that's the problem I have with that. How do you put a price on that?
Because
Well,
you
You
can.
know?
you can, and that's the idea
No,
of
but I mean,
a school.
like
I mean,
I've read.
because they put a value on the
Now, I know you're not talking about the
public
actual,
invest.
Barnes and Noble price of the book. But once you process internally what you get from that book, when you say, "Wow, that was like $1 million information for me," or
Okay.
that
Okay.
was a
Well,
pricing,
what is
or how do
what's the old
you
Richard
That's it.
Pryor joke? The
Greg.
old
how do
Richard
you
Pryor
put
joke
what if
is
it's a
the book is free. The book is free. It's the cover that's $12.99.
Yeah. Okay. That's
but
exactly
I
it,
mean
Greg.
how do you,
You
what if
just
it's a
did it.
priceless? Did I?
Yes.
How could you? What if you
If
say, "Wow, that
if
was
the
priceless"? I can't put a price on what that did for
You
me.
just did. You just said the book's information in that book is worth $1 million. So now you quantify how many books you've read, multiply that $1 million, and you'll come up with your number.
I don't know. I
Greg,
don't know.
nobody's holding you to this. This is just an exercise in free thinking. Okay?
Okay,
Nobody's going
Fantasy
to
Island episode.
test you on this. Nobody's going to come back and say you knew you. No. All
It's a
right, man.
Fantasy Island
We
episode. Okay.
want
Again, what
to
you're talking about, the same process by which people, it's the same process by which people decide what a tuition should be. I mean, it's funny you said take education out of it, but if someone is charging $60,000 a year for tuition, they have done all the research. They've figured out how much it costs to aggregate all the information from people from the University of Iowa, the people from Harvard who are all teaching at this particular university, and saying, okay, it's 60 grand to tell everyone who actually attends what we have to tell them within a year. That's really it. That's the value. So what you're talking about is the idea of distilled knowledge being disseminated. It's just that they've put a time on it and they've factored in the actual cost.
Yeah, right. And you don't have all that information at your fingertips. So I'm not going to ask you, to
No,
disseminate all that stuff. It's just a free game of what do you think? What do you come up with? And
Okay.
it's like this was meant to be, guys. This was meant to be like a 5 minute conversation, and it's turned into this. So,
I'm thinking maybe I'm selling myself short. $100 million.
closing thoughts, Mark.
My closing thought is it's a very interesting question in terms of a random number, but I think for me at this point in my life, that level of randomness really uh, I can't really just say, oh, it's worth that without really considering the factors in my life that are necessary. So, well, we said 68, we said 75, maybe 100 million. I don't know. But in all honesty, it's probably substantially less than that. And to give you a number so that you have a real number for, I would say, and I don't want to upstage you, Ken, but I'll say 45 million. I'm a happy man. How about that?
Got it. Okay, Greg. Closing thoughts.
You gotta. It's a. It's preface with it's a Fantasy Island episode. I mean, I'm good with 15 million. I could invest it. Self worth is kind of what you pick.
Okay.
So,
All right. Thanks, guys. That's all we have for now. Thank you for joining us. If you stayed
you
this long,
did
we
it again,
appreciate
Nelson.
Think
You
about this for those viewers who are out there. Think about this yourself. What is the
what are you
value?
worth?
What are you worth in any business that you're in anything that you do? You continually reevaluate yourself to what you're worth. Sometimes you take serious thought to it. Other times it's just off the cuff. What do I think? And that's what this is about. Thank you for joining us. We are the Three Black Pride Grads. I'm Kenneth Nelson with Mark Skinner and Greg Cleghorn, and we hope you'll join us next time. next time.